where a big party chainsaw go to drink my beer. A couple of dozen games of darts 3 or 4 times a year. Sort me nuts and bolts, sharpen up my knife. Escape from the youngsters, the TV and the wife. In me shed, me lovely little shed. Might as well get a Chesterfield, a toilet and a bed.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for clicking on that video. Appreciate the support as always. Back in the shed today. It's starting to get cold here in eastern Canada. Fall is in full-fledged now. The leaves are all changed. They're falling off the trees. It's starting to get cold. With that in mind, I been toying with the idea of getting one of these diesel heaters. This one was actually sent to me by Vevor. They kindly sent it for me to do a video on and see how it would work, heating up my little 12 by 20 shed, non-insulated with a garage door. So we're going to do a little video on installing this in the shed and see how she works. Alright guys, so there's a ton of these videos on the internet with the same type of heater, but I think this is their new one. This is the 8 kilowatt diesel heater. It's a pretty basic diesel heater. These things are great. This one you can see there's a little fuel level gauge here on the side. You get your simple inline fuse here. We'll have to slap a couple eyes on it and connect it to a 12-volt battery. It has a little digital display here, and then there's obviously your output for your air. So along with that basic parts of the machine, you'll have a little remote control that you can use and start it from inside the house. Got the little exhaust with the muffler on the end. You got your air hose and your breather hose. And then you got a little air filter with some different size hose clamps. So yeah, these Vevor diesel heaters, the new ones have these little clips on the side. So if you want to gain access to either your fuel tank or the actual heating unit, or your fuel pump or any type of electrical connections, it's all here. Very easy access. Some of this stuff, like the fuel tank, isn't really held down by anything. I might use a couple of my big zip ties and just make it a little safer that way. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. Alright, so I just did a couple zip ties around the gas tank so that doesn't move as much anymore. I put some foam right here. This is where your fuel line, some of your electrical connections go down through. I just didn't want it rubbing on the metal. And there's a spot back here where that passes through too, which I guess if I get some more foam, maybe I'll put that in, or if I can get a rubber grommet, maybe I'll take it apart and put it in there too. Made sure all the little screws and nuts were tight on everything, and yeah, I guess we just need to get some eyes on these wires. Oh boy, where'd that go now? Oh, right there. Ah. Wendell. Wife and daughter's home. Wendell, stop that. Alright. Tug test. Pass. So I got the little diesel heater flipped up on end here, and you have 2 little things on the bottom along with the fuel line. You just want to make sure that that fuel line's on there securely. One's an in and one's an out. And if you look closely on there, there's an arrow pointing inwards and another one pointing outwards, and also in the manual it shows it. Alright, I just zoomed in so you guys could see the little arrow pointing inwards on that one, so that would be your air intake. And then this one, the arrow is actually up here under the bottom, but that's your exhaust out. Alright, so like I was saying, you got the input and the output, so your exhaust and your air intake here on the bottom. They're just going to be held on with the hose clamps that came with the kit. You could use your impact or screw gun, or if you just a regular, in this case it's a Robinson bit. Just want to make that nice and snug there on the exhaust. Oh boy. First day with my new hands. Not a bad design. Actually, they have a couple little holes so you can get screwdrivers in there to tighten these things on. Nice and tight. Same thing goes for your air intake. I already put the filter on the top and put the hose clamp on. I might route mine here through the back. I guess it would be the bottom. And then on, because I want to zip tie it to the back of the actual unit. Alright, I will say when you're putting the air intake hose clamp on, be mindful of your little, that looks like a gas line of some type. You don't want it to be rubbing against anything. You're definitely not tightening the screw down on this and digging it into the actual hose. Tight. Do a little wiggle test. Looks good. So yeah, I just cut a couple 2x4s here, 10 inches, and doubled them up to give a little space off the floor for your exhaust and your air intake. I did mine 10 inches wide. If you guys want a little more stability, if you have the room, then you know, go wider. Or if you want to make it higher, or even build yourself a little shelf. Might actually do that in the future, just build a little shelf. If I do, I'll have to get a longer hose, and you can order this stuff on the internet. It's fairly inexpensive. I have my exhaust on, I have my air vent, and comes with like a little cap so you can aim it if you want. I'll put that on a little later. And for my application, I decided I was going to make a small hole through just the floor of the shed. I didn't want to go through the side because I have vinyl siding, plastic siding, and I was a little bit worried about the hot exhaust being close to the plastic and it melting. So I opted to go through my floor. If you're at home and you have wood siding or metal siding and something you won't have to worry about, then do it however you want. But what I like to do is whenever I do a project, I like to do a test run. This is just a little practice one. This is not one I screwed up. This is just a practice one so I know how to make the real one. So I made a little metal collar, the hole just big enough for my exhaust to fit through. And I have some screw holes to screw it down, and I kind of ream those out a little bit so that the head will sit a little bit more flush on the metal. So that should be good. I'm going to screw that down to the floor and pass my exhaust through like that. And then just smaller ones on the ends here. That's just a little look from above. And I tried filing down the edges of the metal there, so no sharp edges. And we'll get the exhaust going out through there. Guys, well, we got it. I just added a little bit of diesel and ran the exhaust out, put the muffler on. Some people said they had issues with the muffler causing it not to run right, but I put mine on because it came with it. But I didn't do anything special. I added the gas and pressed the power. It went through like an initial setup where it was just blowing air, and then you'll start to hear, if you hear that clicking sound, that's your fuel pump. That'll come on, and then after no time at all, hot air starts blowing. It's blowing out of there really hot now. It started up no problem. Everything's working. Maybe I'll go out and show you guys how I have my exhaust. So I just used the little L bracket that came with the kit and a little clamp and hooked it on the exhaust to keep it up off the ground, not have it move around. It's quite a bit of heat coming out of that, so I'm probably going to end up digging some of this dirt out of here, give it a little more extra space, and eventually I'm probably going to have to get a little extension just to maybe bring it out a little bit farther. But for now, just for the testing phase, this will be okay. Alright, so the outside temperature is 12 degrees Celsius, inside my shed is 13. So there's the exhaust going down through the floor. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that, and we'll see if we need to make the hole in the floor a little bit bigger to give some more space, but for now it's working great. And for a battery, this is like a same type of battery that would be in an ATV or a lawn tractor. the wiring that we did, and then I just have a trickle charger hooked up to it, one of those Mosko trickle chargers. So that should keep that good and charged. And alright, so the manual tells you if you want to change it between Fahrenheit and Celsius, just press, they call it the up key, but it's actually pointing towards the right and left, but whatever. Press and hold that for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. 18 degrees Celsius. I turned the heat down, so that's why the pump isn't going as fast, and it seemed to quiet down with the fan too. Just show you the remote here, and you can crank up. I can crank that up. 23, 24 degrees. Crank right up. You can hear the fuel pump kick in and go higher. 29 degrees Celsius. That is like a hot day in the summer, so can't see me using that very much, but it's kind of cool that it can go that high. Don't need her on that high, so I'll crank it down there. I will say too, there's a I'm sitting here with a heater, but there's a fuel jug right next to it. That fuel jug is empty. It's the one that goes on my four-wheeler, but it is empty, guys. There's all kinds of cool little options you can get. You can get a fancier screen that has Bluetooth on your phone, which is pretty cool. There's some auto on settings if you guys want to do any of that sort of stuff. Me, I'm probably not going to have it on if I'm not in the shed, or if I'm not just trying to thaw the bike out after a ride or something. So probably not going to mess around with that stuff too much. Alright guys, that was pretty simple setup. I gotta say, I was super impressed with it. Throws great heat. I just shut it off there to let it cool down. I wanted to let it run for a little while. If you hear anything, my little girl's over here climbing on the four-wheeler. She's sick today. We were supposed to go for an ATV ride, but somebody had a fever, so I had to stay home. They can't see you, buddy. It's a little too low. I'll show you in a minute, okay? But yeah, so this super simple setup. Like, I was super impressed with that. It threw a great heat, very easy menu to use. I think they upgraded their little like their help pamphlet. It was a lot easier to read. I watched a ton of videos on these when I was thinking about getting one, and some of them it was translated obviously from one language to another, and sometimes it didn't flow. But reading this now, it's actually quite easy to understand. Simple 12-volt battery, so whatever if you guys had an old car battery, an old ATV or boat battery, you can get these pretty cheap at places like Princess Auto. So if you want to buy a new one, yeah, I think the only thing left to do now is maybe tonight we'll come back out once it cools down a little bit more, and we'll crank this thing on, see how warm it gets in here, and yeah, let's do a little test. Alright guys, well, back in the shed there. It's 20 after 7 at night. It's 7 degrees outside and 10 degrees inside Celsius. We're going to fire up the old diesel heater here and see how hot we can get it in here to give it a little test. Alright, we got her cranking up there now. You guys can probably hear the little fuel pump dinging away. I turned it up to 20. We'll see if we can get it up to that in here. It's a 12 by 20 shed, uninsulated, open, lots of vents, so we'll see how it works. I don't really plan on getting it up to a high temperature and keeping it there. It's more like just to thaw the bike out in the winter, and if I'm out here working, have a little bit of heat. So it's now 5 degrees outside, 11 degrees inside. I cranked this thing up to about 25 now. It says 17 Celsius. I don't know if that's, you know, what the air is coming out, or if that's the temperature it's measuring inside here. It's definitely not 17, but cranked it up to 25, and we'll see. It goes up to 36, I think, Celsius. So
have a long ways to go from the max, so we'll just try this out, see how it goes. It's been about, I don't know, 45-50 minutes so far.
It's getting on 10 o'clock there. It's now 3 degrees Celsius outside, so it's getting colder and it's staying the same temperature inside, 10-11 degrees. I think this thing's working pretty good for a non-insulated shed, and it'll definitely melt the snow off the bike come winter time if I have some built up. But yeah, I think we're gonna shut her off there now and go inside and probably watch some hockey. But maybe I'll check her back with you guys tomorrow. Just in its cool down phase, and I thought I'd show a fuel gauge here. So it's right about here. So it holds 5 liters of fuel, which I think is how many gallons is that? I'd have to look it up, but I think it's like 1 point something gallons. Yeah, burned a little bit of fuel. That's probably 3.5 or 4 hours, 3.5 hours I'd say, of messing around with this thing. Just in its cool down phase there now. You like that heat, Wendell? Yeah, I bet you do. Hey, bud. Alright guys, well that's the vevor diesel heater. It's the 8 kilowatt, like I said, holds around 5 liters of gas. It was super easy to install. I was actually really surprised. There was no messing around with the little controller. It just pressed the on button and set the temperature and it went right on it. You guys, there's a ton of different settings that I'm not going to use on it, but if you guys wanted to have it and just keep it on a setting, maybe to keep a room above freezing, or like I was saying, or if you're going to have it in your ice shack, like a fishing shack, you can crank it up, keep it nice and warm in there, not have to worry about propane heaters or anything like that. It's great. And versatile little thing. It's pretty easy. You just grab by the handle, unhook my exhaust, it goes through the floor, and it'd be easy to move around, which wouldn't mind trying. Maybe do a hot tent camping trip, bring that with me. But yeah, hopefully you guys liked it. Like I said, there will be a discount code that vevor is offering my subscribers, so that'll be down in the description. Check that out if you're in the market for this type of thing. If you guys liked the video, make sure to leave me a comment down there. Hit the thumbs up. I love hearing from you guys. I try and respond to everyone. I think I do a pretty good job of that, but maybe I'll miss a few on the responses. But usually the initial message, I'll respond to everybody. Hit the thumbs up though. If you didn't like it, let me know. Hopefully we get over some riding videos. I was supposed to go yesterday, but my kid woke up and had a fever, so I had to, Dad first, had to stay home, take care of her. But that's to be expected from time to time. But we're gonna get back out here soon. I know Wendell's itching, I'm itching, so thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate the support as always, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Cheers.